Do you think there will be investment tools that make people happy just from the very act of buying them?
I think some women, when they buy shoes, a dress, when
That's
they buy
exactly what I
jewelry,
meant. They already exist.
watches, earrings, they're the happiest women in the world. Because if there's a real energetic resonance with a particular object or item, and if we're talking about an open and active man, when he buys quality cigars, a great motorcycle, a sports car, or starts a cool business where he can create what he wants, that's the biggest surge of dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins.
Let me ask myself a follow-up, because in any case, that's quick dopamine, the shoes and all that. But if I were to dig deeper into this topic, I'd say it'd be amazing to combine finance with biotechnology. Or maybe not even bio, more like energy-based technologies. Like, what exactly does a person want? What kind of happiness do they want from, say, buying a stock or whatever else? They'd want to feel more aligned, to feel happier. So, in essence, they'd be investing in something that changes them moving toward happiness.
Let's put it this way. There are already mechanisms like that being tested today, but they're not allowed for mass use yet. The idea is that with electromagnetic or sound-based stimulation, certain areas of the brain are activated, the ones responsible for dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, focus, cognitive sharpness. So on the surface, it looks like the perfect solution. But for some people, this kind of stimulation is amazing and it makes them happy, wealthy, energized. They live longer. And for others, it's like a lethal dose that leads to serious health issues. The key is it has to be aligned with that person's value to the planet and to society.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about in this ideal world. You buy something, and it's not just about triggering hormones that wear out your system. It's about changing your hormonal or behavioral algorithms, which are really the same thing, and you become slightly different in the process.
Let me add to that. Our guiding principle has always been simple. Reciprocal exchange. Say someone made that piece of jewelry. When we enjoy it, we're giving back that joy. It resonates with the pleasure they had while creating it. And everyone gains something from that exchange. The more contact we have with people who've created something beautiful and we genuinely enjoy it, the more our life, our energy system, and our hormonal system grow.
Yeah, and we change too. It's like getting a software update when we interact with an amazing product, a business, a person who does something meaningful and creative.
It's like getting aesthetic and sensory pleasure from dining at a luxurious restaurant. We enjoy the food, the atmosphere, the attention to detail, the interior design, and afterward, we carry that memory with us.
Absolutely.
Or we watch a film that stays with us for a week. We keep talking about how deep and beautiful it was. It impacted us, and we, through our attention, impacted everyone who helped make it.
The more open and sensitive we are to the world, the more likely we are to change.
The more spoiled we become. First of all, we become very spoiled because each of us starts interacting with the kind of information that matches who we are. Remember that parable or story? A son comes to his father and says, "Dad, our neighbor left a bucket of crap by our door." And the father replies, "All right, son, pour it on the garden, wash the bucket, go to our orchard, fill it with apples, and take it back to him." The son does all that and asks, "Dad, why did the neighbor give us crap and we gave him apples?" And the dad says, "Because everyone shares what they have." That's the same idea here. We'll always give what we have. It's all a mutual exchange. We attract aspects of ourselves through others, even if they appear as someone else. And the more sensitivity we activate within ourselves, the more we'll start attracting that same energy. That's how we get a good gardener, a good chef, a good movie, great music, a beautiful car, wonderful friends, amazing business partners, or a loving partner. And the same goes for the souls of our future children. They won't come in as who we once were. They'll come in as who we've become.
That's basically what we're already doing. The key is to stay open and sensitive to whatever we're engaging with.
If we put it in negative terms, if you want to live well, get out of places where you feel bad. So let's say it this way. Go where you feel good, where you're curious and enjoying the process of doing something with quality. Because when someone says, let's just lie around like vegetables, that's my version of happiness. And that's not happiness. That's degradation. Real joy is when, like, take gamers, they're totally into it. You can't pull them away while they're leveling up. That's the kind of game we need to create in real life. And so we get that same buzz from making barbecue, hanging out with friends, doing our work, cooking meals, playing with kids, or creating a product. It's really just about planting a certain subconscious algorithm that creates the feeling that we're doing something useful for society, for people, for the earth. And when that kicks in, it starts working to multiply and improve the quality of everything we do.
What's the ideal way to divide up expenses? Like food, housing, travel, clothes, education? Should we have a financial safety cushion? That's a question from a linear mindset. Is there some kind of structure, a value system for where and how to allocate money?
For most people, having a safety cushion is more comfortable. In my opinion, and based on how I feel, if you regularly set aside a portion of your income, say 10 to 30%, just save, it doesn't mean it's frozen. It just means you've got a backup to pull from for a trip, a vacation, shopping, or whatever. It's there, and you can dip into it when needed. Then, based on that, you can look at how much permission you're giving yourself to spend. From my experience, when we aim to buy better, higher quality stuff and we actually feel into what we're buying and enjoy it afterward, we attract more money. No matter what kind of business you're in, you might get a raise if you're an employee, or your business turnover increases, or some new manager shows up who boosts profits. So it all syncs up with our needs. And we've got to listen to ourselves more, really get into that sensitivity, tune in, take care of what's relevant for you right now. 1 month it might be shopping, another month traveling, and another month a detox from both shopping and food.
The traditional value system that a lot of people were taught is, first, save up for an apartment or mortgage, and only then, maybe you can start traveling occasionally, or maybe you should invest in education first. But there's no real system for that. It's all individual, right?
Remember our grandparents? Mine had these separate savings accounts, and a crazy amount of money just disappeared. If they had given that money to their kids and grandkids before that happened, the kids and grandkids would have been living the dream. Dressed to the nines with cars, houses, maybe even a few garages each. But it all went down the drain because that poverty mindset, that survival mode from the post-war hunger, made them save money for nothing. They worked like crazy, but spent only 3 to 5% of what they earned. The rest just sat there because they weren't ready for it, and it should have been put into circulation.
Everyone has some ambitions, some basic needs, and even higher level desires. But maybe what we call basic needs are actually just fears?
You nailed it with the fear part. In my view, we need to treat ourselves through our hobbies. If someone loves photography, go buy yourself a good camera. If someone's into cycling, get yourself a great bike. If you're into jewelry, buy that piece you love. If you like nice watches, go for it. So it's really important to fulfill our desires, things we're genuinely interested in, because if we take the typical systematic route, like I need to get an education to be successful in life, well, you might get that education, but happiness might never follow. That part, the happiness, just doesn't click because everything should be done with joy. And those little treats, we absolutely need to allow ourselves to have them. Then, most likely, the money flow follows. But that doesn't mean going out and blowing everything on shopping and then not even wearing what you bought or bragging about it all. It's about actually realizing those genuine wants.
Right. The key is to sense the difference. What's a real need? What's just a want? And how deep it runs. Because honestly, those dreaming of a 30-year mortgage are just as likely to waste time and money as those endlessly traveling the world for years.
And the traveler might end up living longer, and that house or apartment will eventually come through investments or some unexpected turn they weren't even aiming for.
So there are priorities, right?
I remember having clients, and I later analyzed the whole real estate market, specifically that segment. And from my experience, every family that cut back on vacations, travel, restaurants, and general enjoyment just to build a house, they never even moved into it. Either the house cracked, or the final decisions weren't made, or utilities weren't connected, or they moved in and realized it was the worst thing they could have gotten. But those who chose joy first, remember the choice we had? Either we take on a huge mortgage and say goodbye to traveling the world, or we travel the world and live in rentals. And we were like, forget it, let's enjoy life and live in rentals. Not be stuck staring at four walls labeled your property while constantly tightening our belts. And in the end, funnily enough, everything came together perfectly and we ended up buying our place in one go.
Everyone's got their own individual path, for sure.
Exactly. There's no such thing as a perfect plan because the world is multifaceted. And if we try to evaluate it from the flat angle of how to make money, all I want to say is somehow.
Great. Next question. Right now, the majority of the planet's financial resources are concentrated in the hands of a relatively small number of people. Will that change in the future? Will the number of wealthy people grow? Basically, something like 75% of key resources belong to just 5% of the population.
Can I skip this one? I'll answer, but only if people can take it calmly. Because logically, I think one thing, but my view of the system we live in says the exact opposite of that logic.
What exactly?
The ratio of money in the hands of a few will remain. It's going to follow the golden ratio. That's how it'll keep working. What will change is the quality of those people, but the quantity itself will stay about the same.
Okay, if that's how you see it.
It's not exactly what people want to hear. It's like saying, can we make it summer all year round in Europe? Sure, but it'll be an environmental disaster.
So maybe the middle level will rise?
The middle level is... Great question. Not too long ago, huge numbers of people were dying from hunger. And now, about the same number of people are dying from overeating. So subconsciously, we move toward what we once lacked. And sometimes we keep going even when we don't need to. We could stop, but don't. That's inertia, and we need to rewire it into quick shifts in perspective. I really like the idea your brother Dennis, the nutritionist, suggested, try eating only when you feel hungry. And I realized I didn't eat breakfast, didn't eat lunch, and just had a salad for dinner. I thought, cool, not hungry. Next morning, no breakfast, no lunch, salad for dinner again. That went on for a while until one day I actually felt hunger. My body was like, hey, it's time, let's eat. It's the same here. You really have to sense clearly when something is actually needed. But again, if someone is out of touch with themselves, it's like with my mom. When we offered to get her treatment, she said, I'll just have some herbs and tea and I'll be fine. But when she finally ended up at the hospital, they said it would have been better if she'd come much earlier. Some people simply aren't ready for growth, so they block help, but they still act intuitively based on the worldview they were shaped by. That's why, when we have good intuition, we usually don't even run into health problems in the first place.
And why is it that the wealth will still remain in the hands of a few?
Sadly, the majority of people don't have a high capacity for decision-making. In my opinion, the ones making decisions today and the ones whose choices shape everything from the economy to politics have values that are way below the average worldview of regular people. And that creates turbulence and a push for transformation. When a small number of people possess a lot of love, they'll pull others into growth, because if science, and I'm using science here because it's a visible example, is led by mediocrity, we'll get nowhere. That's why it needs to be driven by talent, and talent can't be evenly distributed across everyone. If it were, it would immediately become mediocrity. Same thing if you asked, who will control science? Answer, a few. Relative to the total population of Earth, it'll always be a few. Or, who will control politics? Again, a few. The ones making the decisions and taking action. because we can't expect everyone to be politically literate. People should just be professionals at what they do. A cook in the kitchen, a machinist at the lathe, a manager at the company. That's an extra function because not all politicians are in it out of love for people or a desire to improve society. To put it simply, officials are put in place by the people, so the people don't have to run the government themselves. The officials are supposed to create better conditions for them, but what do we get instead? In many countries, officials are just system operators, and the system acts in ways that are convenient for it, not for the people who created it. Like we discussed in earlier Futurology episodes, when a computer is limited in its capabilities, it limits what we can get from it if we rely on it alone. So here's my question for you. How do we theoretically build a global system of governance where we don't run into what I've seen in America, and it's similar in Europe, where people are viewed as a source of profit instead of being healed? Where someone could have just had physical therapy, but they get surgery because the clinic earns more from that, where pharmaceutical companies often produce products that don't actually heal because they want a market that stays sick. We need to fully align this. So what do you think we should do? Because changing one part changes the whole system.
What exactly do you mean do? Do what? For what purpose?
So that the system doesn't end up crushing the very people who built it for their own good, only to have it turn around and harm them instead.